So that's a very, very important alignment that's taking place right now. It's a near miss, technically speaking, like it's not perfectly exact, but it's still powerful enough to merit talking about. Before we get into it, I'm just going to draw up my astrological list just to see if there's anything else that I want to mention as well while I'm at it, and to also give everyone an opportunity to get on. So, effectively, let's just give everyone a minute and let's see if this is working. Now, effectively, what I'm going to talk about today is the Eris Thereus Trine. Now, as a quick recap, and you can find out more information on my website about this, you just go to the search feature and you look up on this. Eris is very much that rising, awakening, raging aspect of the feminine. If we look at mythology, and yes, mythology is deeply, deeply patriarchal, but that doesn't mean that every time you see a feminine energy maligned for a reason that she's been, rewritten that way. Remember that there is a toxic element of the patriarchy, just as there is a toxic element of the matriarchy. So whenever you're trying to find a bead on who's a villain, who's a villainess, and whatnot, remember that people and energies exist on a spectrum. It's never one thing or the other thing in such a clean cut way. So when we think about Eris, Eris it was known as the goddess of discord, the goddess of chaos. Effectively, she was not invited, she and her children were not invited to a particular wedding. And Eris gets pissed off. And then she throws down the golden apple of discord. Long story short, that leads to the Trojan War and all kinds of horrible events. So she's very much like that domino effect. One thing leads to another thing, leads to another thing, and it's chaotic and it's discordant and it is often accompanied by strife. Now, on the one hand, Eris creating discord and strife in a system that is rotten, that effectively targets certain genders, certain races, certain sexualities for not conforming to the status quo, I can get behind that. And in that sense, when we think about Eris, the way I've learned to understand her over the years, because as you can imagine, I have a very strong Erisian placement in my chart. Um, as I've come to understand her over the years, it's kind of like that creative act that can only come through a destruction of the old. But that act of destruction needs to be accompanied by the values of compassion, empathy, justice, and fairness. Because without all of this, Aries is basically just a nightmare. And what we just get is more chaos, more conflict, the energy of really pouring oil on troubled waters. And we don't actually get a solution. We just get more trauma and more hurt people. But when we seek to engage Aries from a space that has these values in place, then we know what manifestation of Eris would actually bring a benefit to the collective and yourself. Like sometimes, and we see this often, when I'm saying women because historically speaking and statistically speaking, it tends to be, those who identify as and are seen as women within a heteronormative binary. Um, Women tend to be projected on as being hysterical, as being very angry, as being cantankerous, especially when they are in a system that's trying to gaslight them into thinking that they are the problem. And eventually, at some point, she's going to explode. And that act of rebellion and that act of protecting yourself, that act of sheer expression of raw anger, isn't so much about murdering the person or oppressing the person who oppressed you. It's that act of breaking out of your chains and shackles. And so sometimes these expressions of explosive violence, violence not necessarily meaning going and wailing on an innocent, but violence against that chain, against that frequency of oppression, is exactly what Eris needs to do, because that is just. My cat agrees. But at the same time, when sometimes someone's just acting reactively because they are triggered by something or because their ego doesn't like what you're doing, that is no longer an anger that comes from a place of liberation. That's basically just someone not processing their ego. And errors can also just end up flat out triggering people to go into very belligerent stances, even when they do not have the moral justification or legitimacy for doing so. And that's when you get a manifestation of Eris that is essentially trigger happy and just wanting to kick up the shit because it didn't get what it wanted. So, where you are with the energy of Eris, and for most people, those I think who are 70, 80, about that age range, Eris will be for in a different sign for them. But for the rest of us, Eris will be in Aries. And for most people, this is where that challenge comes from. Now, that's Eris. Eris is in a near miss, still very powerful trine with Thereus, the hunter stalker. And I think I felt this energy build up even 2 days ago. And the thing is, the actual alignment has not even really come to its point of maximum intensity. Not yet. That's in, roughly speaking, over the next 12 hours. And we're going to need a few days just to build down from this intensity as well. So if you notice, people have been extra belligerent. If you notice, if people have been more aggressive than usual, if people have been more readily and easily giving into their triggers, this is why. But you cannot use astrology as a reason to excuse someone from being accountable for their actions. Astrology will give you an indication, okay, this is a time where I need to be even more aware of who I am and how I respond to a certain situation. Now, the thing with Aries is that it ultimately, one way or another, shows you the truth of who a person chooses to be. So if someone is going to go out of their way to treat you like a jackass today, that is not because Aries jumped in their head. That is because they chose to be a jackass. So bear that in mind and also apply the same standard to yourself. There are so many psychic triggers around right now. There are so many things that are trying to excite people in all the wrong ways so that they get up and they get flat up and they get reactive to something. But you got to remember those principles. And I'm pretty sure I'm the only person talking about this. You have to temper Eris with compassion. You have to temper Eris with the question of justice and fairness before you act. Otherwise, you're just going to keep on with that cycle of trauma, karma, melodrama, and the blame and shame game. It will never end unless you start from that place of seeking compassion, fairness, and accountability. Then go and do what you need to do. Now, when Eris interacts with Thereus, we have another problem. Now, Thereus, as you know, is the hunter stalker. Thereus's energy is all about victimization and in a hidden way. You may not know exactly through whom, when, or how this energy comes through, but when Thereus hits, that person gets triggered. That person then either wants to charge into a situation, to shrink inside themselves, to run away, kicking and screaming, whatever. But when Thereus comes, it is that energy of predation that tries to suck out, especially in Leo, to suck out that space of feeling safe, that space of joy, that space of authenticity, that space of just feeling, happy in yourself. And this doesn't just apply to you, it also applies to your loved ones, people with whom you share your emotional and creative energy, your babies, your fur babies, your romantic partner or partners, depending on what your situation is, or even just people with whom you share a deep love or something for a joint passion. So these are the areas and spaces in which these second set of triggers are likely to come. So you can hopefully, you can read between the lines here. So you get triggered by something that's fear inducing in Thereus. Eris wants to go kick its ass, that's fine. But one way she might end up destroying herself and what she should be protecting in herself and others, not caring about collateral. And the other way is a much more embodied response that says, I see what you're doing, not going to allow this into my space, not going to permit you to have the right or the freedom or the allowance over my frequency and my vibration. And that is where Aries can be truly empowered. People talk about resistance and defiance all the time. If everyone actually did as much as they talked about resistance and defiance, this planet would be a lot further on in its journey towards transformation. It's easy to talk in. But everyday acts of resistance are not about the talk. They are about the walk. They are about the presence. They are about the being. Let me give you a very concrete example. It happened about 2 days ago. And I was basically just, it was this very simple thing. The neighbor suddenly decided that no one else existed, and she had to keep listening to her prayers on full volume, not really caring that everyone else could hear it. And so I just, I saw a husband. I was like, hey, do you think you could maybe ask your wife to close the front door if she's going to be listening to music loud? And that guy came onto my property and started to try to intimidate me, basically, wanting to pick a fight, and his body language was super aggressive. And I had to make a split second decision. Either I could kowtow and go, oh, no, no, I'm so sorry, which is not going to happen, or I could escalate as well, which would have gone really, really badly. So I just kept an even tone, tried to calm down the situation, did not back down. And then I realized exactly who these people were. They had this lovely facade of lovely people until you actually call them out on something to say, hey, this is kind of being very disruptive. Can you do something about this place? And I think you should know me enough that I can be super diplomatic when I want to be. But effectively, once I'd seen that happen, I realized, okay, all right, so this is what's going on. This is the energy that's trying to get me to react here. And it was very, very, to be honest, very intimidating. But I took some time to process, clear, get into myself, and then I refused to budge. So today, 2, 3 days later, they haven't said a word, but the music isn't blaring anymore. And it was such a small issue just to go and ask someone to please close the door. But they took this energy as a huge attack, as a huge insult upon their person. And I'm like, oh my God, what is going on here? And because I keep an eye on the alignments, and of course those of you in tier 23 know exactly what I'm talking about because you've already been prepared for this. And I just took a look at it and I chose to change my response. So rather than going into this with belligerence, I just stayed in my center, got that guy to back down, did not need to escalate the situation, and got what I wanted. Was he out of line? Absolutely. Absolutely. Do I now know the truth about my neighbors? Yes, I do. Because then I found out that apparently the reason why the neighbors on the other side have literally walled up their compound is because they haven't been able to take the noise. And there's been a lot of bitterness between the two of them. And so now a lot of things are actually clicking into space. And yeah, the truth, when it is revealed, actually is quite important and actually needs to be honored, even if that reveals itself through an act of unprovoked aggression. Because I did notice, like one time my girl got ill, and when she gets ill, when stuff happens to her, this little fellow tries jumping out to deal with it herself. And so then we have to go run after her and try and find her. And, we had actually asked for help. And we had gone, hey, can you at least keep an eye out or whatever? These people did not care, did not respond, did not do anything. And I'd actually seen for weeks that they were talking to me one way and they were talking to my brother in a completely different way, trying to gaslight us. And one of the things that came out, which is why I knew this was a very Arisian attack, was how this guy started complaining. Oh, I'm irritated when women complain to me. I'm so irritated. And you could see his hands clench. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay, this is a misogynistic thing, probably with a trace of latent racism. All right, all right. But I just said no. So for me, and it took me a while to process and also to see how this is all put together, I still see those little triggers trying to come through. But what I've done is I've basically just focused my Arisian response to uncompromising presence in the space that is legitimately mine. You don't need to cross the boundary and browbeat someone else's expression of free will in their space, but you need to occupy what is yours. You don't need to do that in a way that is all about thunder and lightning, at least not obviously, but you just need to do it in a way in which you cannot be shaken, you cannot be moved. So, concrete example. But a lot of other people will be experiencing this in far more dangerous ways, in all honesty. My brother was telling me, I didn't read the article yet, but he was telling me that a 6th grader basically, was involved in a school shooting in the US. And it was actually this young girl who did it. And I was thinking to myself, okay, that's another major Arisian trigger. So if you look at the news right now, you'll be seeing these very, some very extreme, very unbalanced expressions of violence coming through. Which is why, if you do live in these kinds of volatile situations, be aware, be careful, practice situational and spatial awareness. And no matter how much the trigger wants you to strike back, think first. Are you being baited into reactivity? Are you being baited into carrying through another cycle of drama, another cycle of psychic oppression, another cycle that is just going to lead to misery for everybody involved? Because what that person was trying to do in my case was to recreate whatever cycle he had going on with the other set of neighbors. And I was like, nope, that's it. No. So again, simple example, you'll have to distill that and apply it in the way that it works in your life. And remember that Eris isn't just about going around flinging chaos and mud at everybody. It is also about challenging the system. And the challenge with Eris now is to do it in a way where she is not being gaslit or baited, especially by Thereus. Now, with the galactic center in play in 27 degrees of Sagittarius, this is, of course, a grand fire trine. So, a lot of these old things that are coming up also reflect certain associations and affiliations we have had with certain parts of truth, certain teachers, certain philosophies, certain ways of knowing that society has pedestalized. And this is where the actual feminine must rise and represent herself in whatever way is appropriate. I'm not going to say, turn and very, very calmly look at someone if they're holding a knife in your face. If you need to kick ass, kick ass. But know that in the majority of cases, that is not going to necessarily be the appropriate response or situation. Pay attention as well to your kids and your pets, who are also kids, just different bodies. And because they may also be going through psychic oppression without being able to say it, without being able to articulate it in their own ways. Another thing that you can also do is to focus on enhancing your creative expression in the world. So Thereus doesn't have a space to hide. I mean, I don't consider the darkness evil at all. And frankly, a lot of the things that oppress us in plain sight. What they do is they just hide their agendas and their control mechanisms. But when we fill a space with joy, with awareness, and with uncompromising presence, it becomes a lot harder for Thereus to hit. It becomes a lot harder to go into that reactive cycle with Eris. And that sends the galactic center the message that it needs to receive with respect to what. So that's the way I would put all of this together. So that's what's happening today. The exact time of that, Thereus 24 Leo 36 minutes, Trined Eris 24 Aries 21 minutes, will go exact at 22:16 universal time. So that hasn't even happened yet. The 8th of May, again, in terms of universal time, we're going to be seeing a strong clash between Venus and Jupiter. So it's going to be a clash with Venus at 29 degrees Taurus and Jupiter at 29 degrees Aquarius. It's going to be the clash between what you say your ideals are and the way you inhabit your physical body and your material relationship with reality. It's also going to be a test of how well you actually adhere to your own morals, your own ideals, your own compass as it relates to the feminine. And remember, the feminine is in all things. It is not just in the bodies of those who are born with boobs and a vagina. It is in all things. It is in all beings. And upholding that feminine principle is the order of the day. We will also be seeing on the same day Ceres, Mother Nurturer. Ceres, Mother, is one letter away from smother. So, is it Mother Nurturer or is it Mother Smotherer? She is going to be entering Taurus on the same day, May the 8th at 8:50 a.m. So, as all of this is happening, we're having this very, very powerful struggles between Ceres at 29 degrees Aries, Venus at 29 degrees Taurus, Jupiter at 29 degrees Aquarius. The solution and key to all of this is to look at how the situation in front of you shows you where you need to nurture thyself. You are your own medicine. You are your own nurturer. You are your own teacher. You are your own guide. You are your own benefactor. Begin with you first, and then help those you want to help. One of the reasons why so many of us run on empty is because we give to others first before we fulfill our own needs. And that is ass backwards. If you do not fulfill your needs first, you cannot help people without sustaining a huge cost to your own happiness. When you erase your needs in the name of the greater good, you are desecrating the greater good because you are a part of it in the first place. Honor thyself and then do what you can for those who are under your care. It does not work the other way around. Sometimes people go overboard and they just take in from others, or they just focus on themselves to the exclusion of others. I'm not talking about that. That is another bunch of crazy, another barrel of monkeys in a different direction. My theory has always been the more you nurture yourself in an authentic way, the more you will realize that the happiness of those around you is an intrinsic part of your own personal happiness. Anyone who tells you otherwise is probably a sociopath. But effectively, the more we love the self, we will organically realize the importance of loving the other. Otherwise, your definition of self is going to be very, very, very contained. Is it the self of the ego? Is it the self of the spirit? That's the question to ask. The 9th of May, we're going to be seeing Venus entering Gemini, which will hopefully also lift some of the heaviness of the energies that we've been seeing recently. On the same day, we will also be seeing Boracity, which is an energy that I associate and others associate with the false light phenomenon, square the galactic center. Yet again, an opportunity for us to be looking at those illusions behind which much karma, trauma, drama, hooking, parasitism, predation is being played out. So, really, this is a time for uncompromising presence and the awareness and trust that the deeper you go within to love thyself, you will automatically love thy spirit. And when you love thy spirit, that creates a field of resonance for all those who are around you. It is not just about you, but getting to that space where you realize that is often a journey far, 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 deep, 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 deep within. I know it sounds like a paradox, but normally I don't ask you to just take, what I say is believe it, it happens, but I can tell you from experience, believe it, it works. The deeper you go to the truth within, the more you will actually end up giving. It's not a zero sum game. It never has been. Just, bloody Piscean ethos and dogma screwing around with people's heads have convinced us otherwise. But that's what I wanted to tell you. I mean, these are very key alignments. These are very important things to bear in mind. And just knowing that the situational factors in the air that are pushing people down paths where their egos are very triggered can also help you change the way you think about a certain situation. It doesn't mean that you need to automatically excuse someone for bad behavior. It means that you can say, okay, this is what you've chosen to be. But in contrast, this is what I am choosing to be. And your drama does not get to decide who I am and what I do. The truer you are to self, the more you will understand what you are, what is the power within you, and how that power ultimately translates to love. Having said that, let's look at the comments. Hello, Candy. Hello, Watchman. Good to see you. Hello, Joyful Soul. Hello, Magneto. I have seen ads for Yasuke and Netflix. I've been thinking about whether I should watch it, but okay, I will have a look. I'll ask my brother to have a look as well. He is convinced that I'm Gen Z. At least my sense of humor is Gen Z. I don't know if that's true, but that's what he says. Hello, Batwoman. Lovely to see you. Hello, Auntie Sue. Hello, Davy Love. I haven't seen you online in a while. Hello, Angel Love. How long is this aspect with Thereus and Eris in effect? If we look at the build-up, it took about 3 days to build up. I mean, it was actually scary how much aggression I saw on the streets yesterday. Just people driving in a normal area. It was really, really weird. Hyper-aggressive driving on the road yesterday. And because we travel together, all four of us, my brother, me, and the girls, um, we are always very careful drivers for that reason. That and my daughter will start meowing very unhappily if we go past a certain speed. She is our internal speedometer. See, she's doing it. And but no, very, very hyper aggressive driving. I would say you want to look at today as a flag point. plus to be on the safe side 3 days. So May 7th to 10th. But round about this time is going to be the peak of this energy. Caliph says, thank you, most welcome. Tiffany says, live. Hi, Tiffany. How are you? How are you? Hello, Wichita Chick. Hello, Danai. You're most welcome. If you have any questions, comments, whatever, or just general stuff, feel free. And if I can answer it, if it's appropriate, I'll let you know. So I'll just give a minute for other things. See, look, I'm sweating. It's like, oh, yeah, and I talk about this stuff. um, yeah, my daughter's looking at me very enigmatically. She does that. She does that. So, do we have any other questions? Anything else that needs to be addressed, or are we good for now? Mm-mm. Oh, here we go. Okay, Tiffany says, so nice to see you live. Thank you. Magneto says, dreams have been ultra vivid. There are reasons for that. Be safe in your dreaming. Caliph says, as you wrapped it up, I thought, what if you didn't click on this video? Diary of a Ditch Witch. Oh, hello, Tara. Hey, bye. Great to know. My video this week seems to be rubbing one or two groups the wrong way, breathing through the feelings, lol. Understood, understood. And I will get your email address from my brother. Tara is a longtime friend. And this is the thing, I had so many people I wanted to stay in contact with once I left Facebook. But as fate would have it, my computer crashed and all my data was lost. So if you're one of those people who are like, she got my email but never wrote to me, this is why. My computer just went, no, I can't take the psychic weight of this, and fainted, basically. Um, okay, Angel Love says, thank you. What degree and sign is Thereus? Very little online on the topic. Without exaggeration, you are probably going to find the most information on Thereus on this channel. Just because I literally went to so many astrology talk shows and channels and nobody wanted to talk about it. So whatever you need, whatever is out there, from a practical and metaphysical perspective, you will find it on this channel on my website. So just go to my website, skypriestess.com, and go click Thereus and search, and you will get more information. Caliph says that happened to me in real life, Noel, which I'm not sure. June Babe says, I'm glad I found you again. Yay! Wichita Chick says, can I book a session currently? Um, yes, sessions are still ongoing. I mean, I just restarted after I needed to take some time to do some work for myself. Sometimes I do that. It's not me being snooty, it is me basically practicing self care and doing all the stuff I tell you to do anyway. Always be wary of a facilitator who does not take the organs. Hi, says, aren't fainting computers a yes, they are. They are. I mean, somehow I've managed to stabilize this computer. It's new, or it was new about a year or two ago, and its keyboard doesn't work anymore. It has to use an external mouse, and but it's working. That's the most important thing. It's working. But yes. When I get very, very, passionate about something or very emotional about something, the electronics just conk. They are not able to handle it, and whatever, they're not meant to. Sarah Cookie says, hi, Dr. B, thanks. This is making sense. Yes. Thank you for mentioning the aggressive governmental crackdowns in Colombia, firing on crowds. Jeez Louise. Okay. Yes, there's a lot of energies that are just trying to push into and invade, and the response to that is presence. Presence. Caliph says, at a store called Roses, which I found out was the most high vibrating flower by catching a cat drinking rose water. Yeah. Wichita Chick says, thank you. I'll be booking a time ASAP. Thank you. I mean, when you book sessions, you basically help me maintain my manage my personal life and needs. So thank you, all of you who are able. I know a lot of you are willing, some of you are not able, but I am so grateful to people who are willing and able to support my work either by booking sessions or sending me a contribution or joining Tier 23. For those of you who want to send a contribution, you can do so at www.paypal.me/theskypriestess. And you should see my face come up. Okay, let's see. Lantern Hill Mogul says, my electronics detect critical need and faint. I hear you. I hear you. Tiffany says, have to move after 20 years. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. That is a big deal. Kavya says, hello, hello. Nice to see you, Kavya. Now, those of you who are just joining, we've really covered the grit and gist of what I needed to say already. Oh, look, a white hair. I'm getting a lot more white hair this year. I actually like it because I didn't have white hair for many years. That, and I am a fan of the X-Men, like the cartoon series. So when I see white hair, I immediately think I'm like Rogue, which I'm not, but that's how I see white hair. I like it. um, okay. Tara says, I want a session too, but I had a weak query before I do. I'm not sure you still do the thing I was looking for. Honestly, honey, I don't even know what I do. I just do it. So probably it will be fine, but if you want to just send me a line in advance, you can just email me. Um, you can find it through my contact page on my website, but basically my email is theskypriestess@gmail.com. Remember, there is a the in front there because I think someone else owns the Sky Priestess Gmail, and God knows how much mail that person has gotten. But it's theskypriestess.com. Sorry, theskypriestess@gmail.com. Just message me. I'd love to hear from you. I'll try and get a hold of your email from my brother first. Batwoman says, so where I work, we have gotten security risk assessments in the last 24 hours regarding violence. That fits the bill. That really fits the bill. I mean, for those of you who are in a situation in a position of strength, and I know Batwoman works with the vulnerable, keep an eye on the vulnerable right now. Sometimes they may be the ones triggered to snap, and sometimes they may be the ones who are most likely to be targeted. So, for those of you who have the space and the presence and the resources to watch over others, and it's not a judgment if you don't have that, but if you do, please do use it for something good. Keep an eye on the vulnerable at this time. Chaitra says, hi Bhairavi, I've been following you from quite some time. 2 days ago, I see you in my dream, helping me integrate my masculine energy. I don't know if that was me, but that does happen sometimes. Um, that does happen sometimes. Sometimes spirit just chooses someone that you trust or someone who you are familiar with to deliver a message. So I can't take credit for that because it might not even have been me in the first place. But either way, I'm glad that I was being used to represent something good in your life. So that is a blessing. So thank you very much. Let's see. Antonis says, hey, doctor, thanks for all during these years. You are most welcome. I think I've been sending out an intention to the universe going, there were so many people that I lost touch with because my computer conked out. And, I've been like the people who are aligned and who are willing to do the work, who are willing not to bury their heads in the sand and pretend that the world is everything is so awesome. The people who are not doing that, I mean, I've been like hoping that they would find their way back to me, and that is happening. So I'm very, very happy to see that. Well, you are most welcome. So yeah, I would say that it's a good note to end this on. Those of you who are just joining, go back to the beginning where we talk about things. Oh, hang on, we got something. Rajat, hello B, hugs to you. India crisis getting worse every day. Most family and friends are COVID positive. No good medical guidance. How long will this crazy continue for India? Change your government, honey. That's all I'm going to say on that. Change your government. Yeah, if you're going to have mass religious gatherings at this time, is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? Honestly, Rajan, I'm not even kidding. It's like, yeah, you have to have a government that actually values human life over what somebody said their God needed at that time. You got to ask yourself if that's a God worth following. But honestly, honey, yeah, that's the best thing I can tell you. Unfortunately, government and elections, in some sense, the whole point is to grant legitimacy to someone. And I remember when this particular regime came in, I was already looking at this going, no, this is a bad idea. If you remember when the elections were happening, I was like, this is a bad idea. This is not going to go well. But it shows you how little life is valued there. So the people literally have to put their foot down. I know in Tamil Nadu, for example, there was a switchover in government because people got fed up. So really, it's going to come down to the next election, and these guys are screwing themselves. Anyway, back to the general conversation. Um, Rajat says overthrowing government is a long-term plan, but Indians need urgent support. I agree. I don't even know if they will actually allow foreign, humanitarian relief agencies or foreign funds to come in. So it's really down to individuals. I mean, I remember during the Chennai floods, a couple of years back, it was the people who actually got down and did something. Fishermen literally came into the city and were, helping or relief efforts to save stranded people. The government did not do anything. It's got to come down to the people on the ground. And I know that sucks, but it's a time where India realizes who it is and who it is not. Most I can say on that. Watchman says, very appreciative of all the work you've done. Thank you very much. Watchman is a very, very good friend, and literally someone who climbs very sacred mountains. I hope you don't mind me saying that. And I remember he actually went to Nepal one time to climb a mountain just because I had told him about it. So someone who's been, part of this vibe for a long time. Mo's Art says, Goddess bless you from Dr. B from California, Central Coast. Thank you so much. Say hello to the land there for me. Diane says, hi, Sky. I've been having problems with my neighbors too. I'd have to remind myself, stay calm. But when I see her, she's very apologetic. That is good if it's real, but it can also be a hook. What I have found, unfortunately, not the fact that I found it, but what I have found over the years, and I'm sure many of you have, is that sometimes people pretend. It is it is in some sense easier for an abuser to pretend to be a victim, and oh, I'm so sorry, but I still want this, but my trauma, that's why I did it, so I can get away with it. It's that kind of vibration is also there in the sky. So just be very, very clear if her sense of remorse is actually sincere, or is it just a tactic to get your energy. um but yeah, I see that people are going through this. It's unsurprising. Just keep your hearts open, but know that keeping your heart open does not mean that you need to take shit. Okay? But having said that, I think it's time to wrap up. My temperature is rising, which is what happens when I'm in the flow, especially with Eris. And I'm going to go rest now. So lots of love to all of you. Keep doing the good work. Doesn't matter if you ask yourself, is this does any of this matter? Don't worry. You are doing good just by keeping a vibration that is strong, that is true, that is loving, that is compassionate, that is just and grounded. And I know those are high ideals to aspire to, but we got to put it in practice. Otherwise, we are all screwed. And on that happy note, take care. Very, very many blessings to all of you, and cha cha for now. Bye.